So we define a near-death experience as a person that's been diagnosed as clinically dead. So not a near miss, they were actually passed on. Each of these people have had a near-death experience. Instead of just bringing one person to give you a talk on near-death experience, is that we thought it would be more meaningful to bring you a panel of people so that we can see the similarities that they each had, but also the differences in their experiences. 3 of the panelists here today are residents here of Laguna Woods Village. 3 of them work professionally in the spirituality business. 2 of the panelists are actually coming out today that they have not ever publicly told their stories of their near-death experience. And I assured each of them that this is a very supportive audience. Yes, that is going to embrace what they have to share. So let me introduce each of the panelists to you. First here is Jack Housden. He is a resident of Laguna Woods Village. He holds a BS in mathematics, a master's in education, and a PhD in educational psychology. He was adjunct professor for many years at various universities, and he also taught classes at the Center for Spiritual Living in Laguna Woods. The next person is Pamela DeAngelis. She also is a resident here of Laguna Woods Village. She died on the operating table about 40 years ago, and she now works as a psychic medium. Right next to her is Emmy Shanti, and Emmy is originally from Argentina, and she was in an accident when she was 12 years old when she had her near-death experience. She now is a shaman, and she owns a company called Sacred Land Travels, where she takes people on trips to spiritual places around the world, including Egypt, Bali, Tibet, Machu Picchu, and many more places. And I personally went to Egypt with her in 2021. So next to Emmy is Lucy, and Lucy resides in Riverside. She is a spiritual life coach with certifications from the Life Purpose Institute. And then our last panelist today, and certainly not least, is Virginia Lee. And Virginia lives here in the Towers in Laguna Woods, and she's a retired school teacher, and when she was 30, she had her near-death experience. So please help me welcome our panelists. Okay, so let's get started on our discussion. So what I'd like each of you to do is to first share briefly the event that happened that caused you to have, that you passed away. Tell us about your near death. Jack, go ahead and get started.
All right. Good morning, everyone. What a wonderful opportunity to share experiences. My experiences when I was 15 years old, it was in a car crash. Multiple injuries as I went through the windshield. Undiagnosable cranial and internal injuries, slipped into, my kidneys failed. I slipped into a coma, 5-day coma. Day 4, all the medical people came in and disconnected me from life support. And they said, hey, we've done all we can for him. He's either going to live or not. Day 5, I woke up.
I died on an operating table many years ago. God, probably about 40 years ago, I went in for a routine procedure. And next thing you know, I'm out of my body. I'm floating above my body in the operating room, looking down at the doctors and nurses scurrying around. I don't remember what they were talking about, but there was a lot of commotion. And I didn't know what had happened, never even thought about it until afterwards. The doctor said to me, we had a really hard time with your breathing apparatus. And I didn't think much about it, but then later on, some of the nurses said that I had flatlined. And that was the beginning of my journey. I've had many, many experiences, but that one was one of the tops.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? Thank you for coming today, this morning, to listen to something so personal and so profound that is these experiences that we all have here a while ago, I see. My experience was when I was 17, not 12.
Oh,
17,
sorry.
yeah. I grew up in Argentina, and my father was the first one who started importing motorcycles Honda to Argentina from Japan. That was a while ago. And in that moment, we didn't need to use helmet or have any kind of documentation to really go around with these great motorcycles. So I have all the motorcycles I wanted, you know. That was fantastic. And also I have my house full of people all the time because they come to also drive the motorcycles. So in this case, I wasn't driving. I was with one of my friends who was driving. We were 17, and he was driving very erratic. And I thought, oh my God, you know, just calm down. No, we're fine. You know? And then he turned in an avenue, and I remember something hitting us, and I was flying from in the air, and I lose consciousness completely, blackout. Then I have another experience that was fantastic, but I'm going to tell you that in a little bit. But what happened is when I opened my eyes, I have a lot of people around me. You're back. They were really happy that I was back, and I didn't understand. I wasn't very happy to be back, but they were really happy that I was back. So seems like I was also flatlined for a little bit, but I have an experience that seems to me like was hours. Mm-hmm. You know, like maybe 3 minutes was hours for me. Thank you.
I had a near-death experience when I was 4 years old. And when you're 4 years old, you're very curious and you want to know a lot of things and you're learning. So when I was out, I had a most wonderful experience. The light looked beautiful. The angelic beings were all around me, and I felt unconditionally loved and supported. My death was very tragic, and I don't really talk about it very much. My official cause of death was asphyxiation. When I remember being with the angels, it's one of the most wonderful experiences I've ever had. To hear them speaking to me in their beautiful, melodious voices, I will never, ever forget that. And it felt like I lived lifetimes. And what kid doesn't want to be invisible and fly? It was almost like dream come true. And this life, I know, this life experience, I'm very, very grateful that I was allowed to come back. I'm very, very grateful for every heartbeat, for my blood flowing in my body, because it means that there are second chances and that life is a blink of an eye. And the reality is that the afterlife is eternity. And I wanted to share that with as many people as I could. There's no need at all to be afraid of what our life after this life offers. Thank you.
I was a young mother, 30 years old, and I was teaching, and my students had strep infection, you know, tonsillitis, and I was very lucky to actually contract it. And I stayed out of school for 2 weeks, went back. On the third day I was back, I passed out in the classroom, and when they got me to the hospital, they found that I had pericarditis. I had strep in my heart, in the heart sac. And when they got me to the hospital, I died and was out over 4 minutes. And my experience is very like yours, Lucy. And we'll talk about when I came back. I didn't really want to be back, but I, as a mother with 2 small children, and the reason I came back is because my husband called me back. They went out and got him because I had flatlined, and they said, call her name. We've been calling her name, and she isn't responding. And he came in and called my name, and I heard him, but I didn't want to come back. And I did. My experience, very much like Lucy, I felt like I was being cosseted. You know, when you hold a baby in your arms, and I was being held very lovingly. I was being told how wonderful I was. I could hear the angels around me. I think they were angels. There were voices and music and color. And if I tell you that it was all the same, I was surrounded by it. It was like a miasma all around me. And the colors were there and the music was there. And there was a sense of beings around me. But this sense of overwhelming love, there's no, unless you experience, I don't know if we could even understand it, but it was, well, you know how you love a baby the first time you see it, you just that feeling. And that was the feeling I was getting, that I was being totally loved unconditionally, and that I was the most wonderful thing in the world. But they said they called me several times and I'd never responded. But when they got my husband to come in, and he called me and he said, please come back. And I guess I just kind of halfway remembered I had children and came back. But I wasn't happy to be back. For part of me wasn't happy. I was happy to be back with my children. But the other part didn't want to come back because it was too wonderful where I was.
So really quick, Virginia, as you know, the next question was to describe your experience on the other side. Did you want to add anything to your experience on the other side? And we'll just come back the way, you know, travel the microphone back to me.
The one thing was that I'd been in a lot of pain. I was a preemie and born with many, many maladies. I've had 34 surgeries. And at that point, I'd only had 20. And I was always in pain. You know, later found I had fibromyalgia. But while I was gone, there was no pain. There was nothing at all. It was just this wonderful well-being experience. And when you, well, you're going to talk about when you come back later, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When I experienced the near death, I felt like death, not near death. I was in a lot of pain, and it was a relief to leave my body. When I was leaving, I looked back, and the energy of my spirit or soul leaving my body, it didn't go straight out in a trajectory like this. It was almost like a lenticular motion. And when I look back, that's what created a tunnel. And I could have jumped right back in my body, but it would have been too painful. So it was a very quick experience. And when I was out, I was flying. I didn't feel a physical body whatsoever. I just felt myself as consciousness. I've had out-of-body experiences several years after that. And in out-of-body experiences, I actually could see what in Theosophy they call the etheric body, which is transparent, and you could see your physical body, and that's not transparent. So when I was actually dead, I didn't have an experience of feeling a body. The lights looked beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Everything is made out of light. And there were angelic beings around taking care of me, watching over me, and making me feel very, very loved. One of the angelic beings spoke to me at length, and her voice was so beautiful, melodious, that every time she stopped talking, I wanted to hear more, because it was such a pleasure to feel that much love coming out of a voice. We reached an agreement that took me probably 30 years to understand what she told me, what that agreement was, because as a child, such things are just so unfathomable. The greatness of creation and God's love are just such big topics that when you're that little, it takes a long time to have a foundational frame of reference for something of that magnitude. So it has taken me a long, long time to realize what really happened, and to find mentors and guides, as now I'm a mentor and guide, to help me figure out just how magnificent it is to have an experience like that. And when I remember it, I remember every single moment of it because it was that impactful.
I had an amazing experience, really amazing experience. I guess I was my whole life since I was really young with a longing, like something was missing. And I guess we all have that longing, but we didn't know what it is. I didn't know what it was. And even I have an uncle who say, Emmy was always a melancholic little girl. And it seems like I was missing something I didn't know. So when I had this experience, finally I understood what I was longing for. What happened to me was a little different. I felt like I was waking up from a dream. When you wake up and you have the dream there, but it's not really important, that was my whole life. That wasn't important. What I have in front of me was amazing, amazing. And I'm going to try to describe it, but actually this language doesn't communicate exactly what it was. I can never communicate with words what I experienced, but I'm going to try. I have this feeling of waking up from a dream finally, and I was in that beautiful space of peace and love, and there was an amazing light in front of me, and I want to go there. I was like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. I want to go there. Someone was next to me that I don't know who it was. Maybe it was an angel who was guiding me. It was a really light, beautiful presence. So we started like an ascension process. What I remember was an ascension process. And in that ascension, I saw so many things. Whoa, I did so many therapies to understand all of this, because I saw so many things related with reality and how reality works. Now I believe that was the Akashic records that open up. So I started seeing everything. I saw Mozart's music from where it was coming and from where he was channeling that music. I saw Einstein calculations from where he channeled that information. I saw that Walt Disney. I saw all the characters that they were in the other dimension. Like the other dimension was creating this one. That was fantastic. And I saw from where come the power of the powerful people, from where came the beauty and the love, and everything was there. Everything was revealed. And I was like, this is amazing, but I want to go to the light. Was the most important for me. So I keep going in this ascension process. And I go to a place, it's impossible to describe, but it was like different universes that they have crystal cities and temples, that they were light temples, temples of light. That was fantastic. And I was like, wow. And I stayed there and I meditate there. And I saw that more higher and higher we were going, I was seeing pyramids, a lot of planets with pyramids. That was amazing. And everything was kind of crystal. I don't know what material was because it wasn't from this dimension. The colors was colors that we never see here. This is another type of colors. And everything was so beautiful that the beauty was, I remember saying, in español, qué belleza. What a beautiful, this is so beautiful. Everything was beautiful. But I want to go to the light. And I keep going, and finally I got there. And I tell you, that was the most amazing experience that I ever, and I never gonna have an experience like that here, had. But it was so amazing, so real, so profound to have that, I don't know how to say, cosmic, multidimensional, magnificent, wonderful, beautiful light in front of me, full of love and wisdom. And well, I don't have any words. And the only thing I want to do is to be there. Don't go anywhere. I just want to sing for that beautiful light. Some people call it God, Great Spirit, Wakantanka, Allah, Krishna, Buddha, doesn't matter. It's the same light. And I was so fascinated with everything that I was receiving. Of course, I didn't want to come back. That was home. That was real home. Why I want to come back? Until this being said to me, you have to go back. I don't think so. I want to stay here adoring this God, beautiful light. I want to be here. I don't want to go anywhere. And then I remember why I came here. There was a memory, like you make a contract. You have to go. Okay. I went back. And that wasn't easy. I'm still struggling with being back, to be honest with you. But, well, then I'm going to tell you how that impacted my life. But more or less, it was like that.
Well, I'm really jealous of all of you here on the panel because I did not see the light. I flatlined, I saw my body, but that was it. I did not see the light. But did it change me immediately? No. I had to go on to experience many other lessons that I was here to learn that we'll talk about in a minute. But I'm jealous of all of you.
Well, like Pamela, I did not travel to the other side. But when I woke up, I was astonished to discover that I had all of my mental faculties. I had language. I had control of my fingers and toes. I could see, I could hear, and I was just astonished by that. And then somehow it took a time for me to heal because my physical body was so far behind my mental capacities that I had to relearn so many things. You have to relearn bladder control and potty control. I had to learn how to use a fork and a spoon to feed myself. I had to learn how to walk again. So I still remember, for example, that first step that I got to take in learning to walk. And I took one step and fell into my nurse's arms. And I felt that love that she was there for me. So it was just the beginning of a reawakening because something had happened that I was later to discover. So for me, it was more of a latent and a progressive discovery of what I had been informed about.
You've just answered the next, well, I'm just going to skip one and come back to it. One of our questions of when you awakened from your NDE, what did you feel and experience? Was there anything else you wanted to share about that before we move on to the next person?
I didn't get it at all. It took many, many years later to kind of piece all of the things that had happened to me together. I really should have been dead many, many times other than this particular incident. I had fallen out of a car on a bridge. I was hit by a car. I was raped and assaulted twice in my life with a knife at my throat. And I really had to piece all this together as to why I was still alive, which is how my journey started. You know, what is this all about? But no, it wasn't an immediate experience for me.
What I felt, right, when I opened my eyes, I couldn't see like I can see now. There was blurry. There was like energy. Like I was seeing the people, but I was seeing the the light body of the people. I wasn't seeing people. And that took me a while to recuperate my sight, to be able to see the material world. I wasn't so happy to come back. I want to stay there. And they took me therapies and going to a group of people like us who has near-death experiences, so I can hear that I wasn't getting crazy. I wasn't the only one, and I was surprised that many people has the same, very similar experiences. And I said, oh, wow, this was real, really real. And but took me a while to come back. I tell you, I'm still trying to come back. More or less.
When I came back, my sister took care of me. She was probably 19 years old. And she told me that when I came back, I was a completely different person, completely different personality, just completely a different person.
Can you tell us how you were before and then after?
Before, I was a very shy, kind of introverted. I didn't really like to be around a lot of people. When I came back, I was very available to speak to anyone about anything. I enjoyed being with big groups. I loved to go places and experience new things. If somebody was leaving the house going anywhere, to the grocery store, what have you, I would go out. I would go with them. I was always greeting and saying hello to people I hadn't met. I could feel people's pain, and that was difficult when you're little, to have someone that you love have a backache or something like that. You just want to help them. You don't know how. And I could feel people's thoughts. I was able to stay away from things that were negative because I knew, where the wrong places to go were. I had a lot of empathy for people that wasn't there before. I could finish your conversations. I could tell what people were about to say. I was very, very fortunate that my sister taught me to read at a very young age. She used to read me all of the best children's books, Aesop's fables and all of the fairy tales. And so my way of coping with the trauma of a traumatic death was to learn and learn and learn and read and get me another book and tell me another story. And I'm a lifelong learner. That's one of my joys in life. I usually have about 5 books on my nightstand. And when it comes to metaphysical subjects, I'm there. Because I'm good at math and I was very intuitive, my brothers taught me cards because what they wanted to do was just, amaze others by my abilities. But my mom thought that was not a good use of my skills. So I would tell her what was happening in the neighborhood with the neighbors and what people were up to. And sometimes my mom would say, little children should not speak of such things. So I learned to be quiet about what I was experiencing. I learned that not everybody wants to know. I learned that some of my experiences weren't shared by others. And by the time I was in my teenage years, I had kind of shut it all down because it was overwhelming to others. I was still having the experiences. I just wasn't as good at sharing them. I'm really glad that I had my sister there for me, though, because she gave me a lifelong a desire to learn more and find out more and to read and be well-informed and to look at this world with wonderment. and I still do. There's still that 4-year-old in me that just loves to learn new things, that loves to be around people, that loves to have these new experiences. But believe me when I tell you, I do feel people's pain. And sometimes when I find myself crying, because I can feel how the whole world is feeling, like when major disasters strike, I will be there. So if I have an opportunity to go to a meeting where there are people that are healing because of a recent event, then I will go. I will show up for wherever I can also add my light to whatever situation where I can be of service.
When I woke up, I felt buoyant, as if I had no bones almost. I was like floating. And I was very happy. I wanted to see my children. Unfortunately, the heart wasn't healing as fast as I wanted. I spent 2 months in the hospital in a darkened room with a nurse with me 24 hours because they give you, in those days, because I'm 89 now, so that was 59 years ago, they didn't have all of the things they have today to take care of the pericarditis. So they gave me a tranquilizer to keep the heart very slowly beating so it could heal. I couldn't read, I couldn't watch television, I could only see my husband 5 minutes a day, and that went on for 2 months. Because of being a preemie, my immune system isn't like yours, and I am allergic to most antibiotics, so they couldn't give me an antibiotic. In those days, penicillin, and I was very allergic to it. So I had to stay for the 2 months until my body decided to heal itself, kind of. And that was sad because I was away from my children, and my son was only 4 years old, and I was missing him. But the other thing was that as I was lying there with not being able to read, which is, one of my favorite things to do, and not having my children around me or my husband, I was thinking constantly about what had happened to me and what that meant to me. And if I tell you that I feel I owe a debt, any of you are Catholic, you'll understand, I had the last rites 4 times in my life. And that's near death 4 times. And at that point, it was only 2. It was later on I had more. But I felt a debt to the universe that I owed you something because God gave me another chance. And people talk about seeing the light. I didn't go through a tunnel or anything, but there was a lot of light around me. But the feeling that, if I want to say this and it sounds, in all humbleness, I felt special that there was something that I now had a responsibility to you. And when you talk about feeling pain, I was a teacher 44 years. I was a very effective teacher because I could feel my children when I was working with them. And I have 5 credentials, so I taught all ages, including the second year of college. And special ed allows you to teach infants, to be with infants too. So I've had experience of people all the way up until their, growing years. So when people come up to me and start to talk to me, I have a sense of them all of a sudden. And this is my first time telling anybody about this, so it's a little bit frightening for me in a way. I want to tell you that I see your auras. Around you, there are electrical fields, and some of them are pink, and some are green, and some are lavender. And when my students would come up to talk to me, I'd see their auras, and if they had pain or something bothering them, I could see like a chunk of chewing gum on their shoulders. And that chunk was their pain or something that they were carrying. And the nurse used to say that I was a good diagnostician because I would say to her, this child is suffering, there's pain in the body. And they found out the child had leukemia, and no one even knew it, but the little girl was having more and more problems getting to school. Also, a feeling about things that were happening. I don't know if you want me to say now, but I saw 9/11 4 days before it happened. I thought that the buildings were being bombed. I had no sense of a plane going into a building. I heard people singing "God Bless America" way before they did. I saw the building falling on people. And for weeks afterward, I saw pieces of what had happened and who had planned it. And I sat with FBI people in Maryland, because that's where I was living at the time. Anyway, I've had a lot of experiences since this happened to me. I was always an aware child when I was younger, but now the awareness was more acute. I knew where my children were. One time my son was playing with rockets when he shouldn't have been. And I was coming home from school, and all of a sudden, I knew I had to rush home, that something was terribly wrong. And I got there, and the ambulance was taking my son to the hospital. It sent up a rocket and had exploded and burned him. So anyway, there are a lot of more things.
Well,
I'm sorry. I get to a point where I want to tell you all kinds of things, and then I don't know if I should.
no, it's okay. So why don't we go ahead and hop over to the question of that you've started with us is, what gifts did you receive from your near-death experience?
The awareness of people, I think that's the most thing. And if I tell you my heart is full of love, people that know me know that's true. I want to give to you. I want you to be happy. And I don't have savior behavior, not that. But I do want to make you happy. And I tend to, I do crafts. And I tend to give them as gifts. And people say, what can I pay you for? I don't want you to pay me. I want to give it to you because I want to see your happiness.
A little closer.
And my sense of you and being responsible for you is overwhelming sometimes. And when you talk about being alone, I don't watch the news because it makes me sad. And I can get very angry and very upset. And it also causes my heart to fibrillate, so I'm not supposed to watch the news. I'm very Italian, so I'm very emotional. And I think it only made it more so afterward. Sometimes I can walk into a room and I know that there's someone that needs me. And all of a sudden I'll be talking to somebody and that person is telling me their whole life story. And it happens so often. I was in a grocery store in Maryland and I walked by this woman and I felt pain down my back. And I turned around and started talking to her. She was in the middle of a horrible divorce. Maryland is a terrible state to get a divorce in because it's a Catholic state at that time. It was very difficult to get a divorce. And her husband had raped her several times. He'd come home and beaten her and her children. And there wasn't any way she could get a divorce anyway. And I listened to the whole story. And at the end I said, is your back bothering you? And she said, I have such pain in my back and I can't stand it. Well, if I tell you, she died 2 months later. She had cancer of the spine. Also, I was at a Christmas party standing in line in a buffet, and a lady walked by me, and I said to my date, I was single for about 11 years. I said to my date, who just went by me? And he said, oh, Evelyn. I said, is she sick? And he said, no, she's perfectly fine. And I said, no, she isn't. She's very sick. And she also died several months later. She had leukemia and didn't know it. But I was in Salvation Army. I love thrift shops. I was in Salvation Army, and there was a little Mexican gentleman coughing, and was his wife, and he was kind of shuffling around behind her. And all of a sudden, my chest started hurting so badly. And all I wanted to do is just go like this to keep my heart together. And I went up to the clerk and I said, do you speak Spanish? And she said, yes. I said, will you tell that man over there that he has to go to the doctor? He's very sick. Well, months later, I was in that same store and the same couple was there. And they came up to me. He had quadruple bypass surgery a month after I saw him. So things like that. I've also held a baby that had a twisted intestine, and nobody knew why the baby was crying, but I could almost see his intestines twisted. It doesn't happen all the time, and people say to me, "What's wrong with me?" I say, "I have no idea." God gave me a gift. I believe in God very much, and it comes when it wants to come. And when I saw 9/11, it was very horrifying for me. I was on the couch, praying on my knees and crying and sobbing because I didn't know where it was going to happen. And I was in Maryland teaching in Delaware, and it happened in New York. And I had 3 cousins in the building. And I think, I don't know if it's because I had someone there that I could feel it, but I saw it and heard the people screaming. So what gift did I have? The awareness and second sight.
Right. You have, she can see medically, obviously, and then also you have premonitions. You have the gift of prophecy.
Yes. And I do want to tell you, there are 2 doctors, PhD doctors, Dr. Targ and Dr. Putoff. I don't know if any of you ever heard of them. They worked at Stanford in
Paranormal research.
Yes. And I worked up there with them in the early 70s.
Can you repeat the question? I want to be concise.
Sure, yeah, definitely. What gifts did you receive from your near-death experience?
Clairsentient, clairvoyance, psychometry, previous life recall.
What is psychometry? Can you explain that?
Psychometry is to be able to touch an object and feel the vibrations from it. It's also a way of doing readings called billet psychometry, where someone can touch an object and then hold it to a place in their body, the solar central chakra, where your strongest vibration comes from. And then I can take that and put it in my third eye and answer your questions, sometimes even if I haven't opened the billet to read it. I've worked as a spiritual psychic medium. I was promoted to spiritual leader at a spiritualist church many years ago. I worked there for many years, giving readings in a group setting to people that were coming in that had never met me before, and I was able to provide names, dates, places, evidentiary readings. I have had different experiences with remote viewing, astral travel, consciously walking into a place to find lost items or to answer questions. I'll give you one example. My friend's sister, her bird died. Her bird didn't live very long. And she asked me if I could go and find out why her bird had died. So I astral projected to her home, and I was led to go into the kitchen. And the kitchen, I saw the bird cage, and it was above the dishwasher. And I saw the dishwasher being turned on and the fumes from the dishwasher going into the bird's lungs and killing the bird. Oh. So I asked her to ask her sister in this order. Was the bird in the kitchen? Yes. Was it in a cage? Yes. Was the cage above the dishwasher? Yes. Did she turn the dishwasher on and then leave? And she came back and the bird was dead. And she said, yes. So that was evidence for my friend and evidence for her sister, because all of those things were true. I didn't know growing up that I could do all of these things or what to call them. I just seemed to be unusually lucky and have extremely good luck at being at the right place at the right time. And even when I messed up, I was extremely lucky because the universe came in and made things better. I still don't know all of the things I can do because someone maybe hasn't asked. The first time I did readings was at a psychic fair. I was just there with my friends setting up chairs, but one of the psychics didn't want to work because she was just too many people. So they asked me to do the readings to earn the $50 that they had paid for the chair at the Holiday Inn. So my first experience doing readings was amazing because I was just as amazed that they were, that I could get names, dates, places, that I could see the relatives that had passed, that they were right there standing next to them and were able to communicate with them things that I would not have known. I had to make peace with all of these abilities because when I was a teenager, it wasn't a real popular thing, and I tried to fit in. But a friend took me to a mega church that she went to where they said, say 5 prayers. And I said my 5 prayers, and we went to dinner. By the time I had come home, all 5 things had occurred. When I walked through the door, they had already happened. That was frightening to me because I didn't have anyone to ask. I didn't have a mentor, or because I had been kind of putting that aside. When I eventually decided, I need to get my college education, I worked my way through college, and I need to focus on earning a living and growing up. And I'm going to just put this to the side. Well, when I was in my 20s, I had a surgery and I was at home recovering, and I started having out-of-body experiences. At first, I thought I had died again, but the out-of-body experiences are quite different from being dead because you do have more of a sense of time. So I still don't know all of the things that I can do, but if you ask me, you might be surprised. And me too.
The gift, right? Oh my God, so much. But I have to say one of the greatest gifts that I have is wisdom. It's like when open up and I could see how the mechanics of life works. Every time I need information, instead of going to books, I go to that experience to remember that wisdom. Because that wasn't mine. That's like a quantic field that is there for all of us. It's just when you have the access and you can see is, whoa, you know everything. You know everything. That's the beauty. It's not like I become psychic. I know everything.
Emmy, really
Yeah.
quick, is I think you're referencing the Akashic Records.
Yeah.
Not everybody in the audience may know what that is, and you
Yeah.
talked about it,
Right.
when you were on the other side. Could you
yeah.
explain the Akashic Records for everybody really quick?
Right.
Because that's what you're accessing, right?
Yeah. The Akashic come from Akasha. And Akasha is a substance in the universe. It's like the etheric realm where exists before matter is created. So it's the information of absolutely everything what happened in this planet, we will say, in the universe, but because we are from here. And also there is the story of each one of our souls. So we can really check the Akashic records and help people heal in a way that you cannot do it in a physical way, right? Because you can see past lives, you can see the whole evolution of the soul. So I will say, yes, wisdom for me is number one, but the other one that go together actually is also number one, is grace. Grace is a state of grace that somehow I feel the light coming and wow, it's something unbelievable. And I cannot share that with anyone, because they look at me and say, what's going on with her, But I feel somehow a happiness that is not human, that is coming from the other realms. And also, of course, because you can see, I start seeing spirits that they are not here constantly. And also, somebody can say a name of someone, and I knew everything because I can see that Akashic records that was open, and I could see. So, something that happened that a spiritual teacher find me. I was 20, and I have to say, my love for that amazing Wakan Tanka light. Great spirit, I don't know what name because it doesn't have any name and have all the names. what it did, that I am in service to that light. And I dedicated my life to that. I never, ever did anything else. My whole life I dedicated to spirit. And yes, I studied psychology. Yes, I did a career helping people, but I went into the holistic realm because, we have to see us as a whole, not just, okay, they have a sickness. Well, it's a reason that the sickness is there. So when this spiritual teacher met me, she took me, she knew that I was very psychic, so she took me to work for the police to discover criminal cases. I was 20, and I went there like 3-4 times with a group of psychics, and that was something. That was something, because the spirits who die in a very horrible, tragic way, they're following me everywhere. And even I was taking a shower, help me. And I was, oh my God. And that was a point that was so much that I could see these lost souls that they were basically murdered. And I couldn't handle it anymore. And I closed the door and I say, this is not what I like. I don't want to do this. I just want to work for the light, and I want to see what is good, not what is bad. So kind of shift my perception to help people to reach the beauty of that light that I know exists. People ask me, do you believe in God? No, I don't believe in God, because God is not a belief. God is a knowing. It's an experience. I don't have to believe that the sun is going to come every morning. I know that it's going to happen. So for me, God never is going to be a belief. And I was lucky that I didn't have any religious upbringing, zero. My mother always say, God is not in the church, and all the priests are corrupt. But and my father was a business guy, so I didn't have any religious upbringing. So for me, it was even more rich to find that religion is kind of an illusion to put this light into form. Depends the cultures, right? But it's this light kind of embrace everyone. It's not like they don't belong to any religion. This great spirit is ours. It's for all of us. And it's so amazing that I really wish everybody can see how amazing it is, because your life will be so much easier. And suffering is gone when you really realize that. Mm-hmm. And remember, this life is an illusion. It's a dream. So we're here. Life is like that. Ping, I'm 62. I cannot even believe it. I say, what happened? And she was telling me she's almost 90. And I said, I'm sure that happened. What happened? And then we go. So just be happy. Enjoy what you have, because this is a miracle. Life is really a miracle. Thank you.
The gift that I got after I passed, flatlined, again, I probably had from the time I was young, because I've seen spirits most of my life. I've been surrounded by angels. I had angels that saved me many times. I had an angel appear at the end of my bed one night, and I sleep like a log, and this angel was the size of this room. I mean, that tall. And it's not an accident that my last name is DeAngelis. I don't believe there are any accidents in life. My gift, I think, is that I can see people that have passed, and I do readings based on that. I've seen my father. I've seen many, many times different people that for readings that I've done. I do believe that we have a blueprint for our life. We make a blueprint for our life, a chart, before we come here on a soul level with other people on the other side that help us and guide us and pick our parents and pick our experiences and pick our tragedies and our lessons to be learned. All of us here got gifts from the lessons. And once you get the lesson, once you understand why you've had this pain, it goes away. You've moved on. And that's why you've got to do the work. Everybody's come here for a reason, and everybody has a purpose. And I spent a lot of my life looking for that purpose. What is my purpose in life? What is my purpose? My purpose is this. This was my gift. And all of you have different purposes in life. And that emptiness that I felt until I found it was this searching. What am I searching for? Well, you're searching for peace. You're searching to understand why you're here. This field, I cannot get enough of it. It's just something that I just love exploring. And the more I understand it, the more I need to know more. We are, again, here on stage. We're players in a play. It is said that we'll have 80 to 100 lifetimes. And I believe that. I've been past life regressed. I've seen my life many times before. A lot of it makes so much sense. So I hope that all of you start reading and absorbing some of this, because it is a fascinating world. And there is more. I know it. I've experienced it. And spirits have come to me and have told me that. Thank you.
I would say something happened that prepared me for my life to be lived. And I can honestly say that the experiences expressed by all of our panelists are ones that in some form or another I have experienced. And somehow I was always being prepared on a process of discovery for another experience to show up in my life. And I think one of the gifts that I was given had to do with, at age 15, as I was recovering the physical body portion of my growth, I discovered I had lost my fear of death. I also was introduced to my guardian angel, Jonathan. And my guardian angel explained to me, I'm here to guide you and keep you out of harm's way. And then a third knowing that showed up just spontaneously was the power of forgiveness. It's like I heard these words. It said, forgive everybody for everything, all the time, and move on. And those three really helped form my character, and that made me open to different experiences. So I was sent forth on a journey of discovery. And that is, I think, the greatest gift that I was given, is to be open to experiences that began to show up and to encounter different ideas among different people, different voices that were both coming from some source, unknown source, and others that are sent here to be messengers to teach me and teach others. So one of the great gifts that I was given was in my 50s, having an out-of-body experience. And I was in a situation to where I was undergoing open heart surgery, and suddenly I was out of my body. I was looking down at the body, and I said, hey, do you want to go back into that body or not? You know? So I said, well, I don't think I have another choice. That's my body. I belong there, right? So I kind of, but what it taught me, what the insight was, the discovery was, whoever I am not my body. I am not my mind. And that was astounding because I was in like age near 50. And what that did for me is to put my focus on, stop asking the question, who are you? And start asking the question, what are you? And that led me into further exploration of some of the psychic abilities that were present within me that were beginning to show up. So it wasn't until I was in my 50s that some of the learnings of the gifts that I was given began to manifest themselves. So experiences like, teleportation and channeling and remote viewing, spoken to by other panel members, I've experienced them as well. But the greatest gift that came out of that was a full understanding of what it meant to love unconditionally. Because it's like what we're here for is to give and exchange love. And when we're ready for the other side, we will discover that love is all that matters. And I think that's probably the greatest gift.
Okay, so this is a question that might not be for all of you per se, is when you were on the other side, right, did any of you meet your deceased loved ones there? Anybody? That is a very interesting similarity, right?
I like to speak to that,
Sure.
Elaine. It wasn't until my 50s or 60s that I had loved ones who had passed on that I was hearing them speak to me. And so it was like I then was able to say, oh, I can access my loved ones on the other side simply by asking. And then, but sometimes they would talk to me and summon me and say, what have you done to grow yourself spiritually? What have you done to make a difference in other people's lives and to open up themselves to themselves? And so those are some questions. And so what I realized was I could answer any question that anyone could possibly pose. And so this is why, Amy, I was so taken by your saying the awareness that you have. It's like, what are the questions that are being asked of you? It has to be kind of pulled out of you to come forth into this realm. So what I learned was that there's a very multidimensional world, and that otherworldly matters are just other realms of reality, and that we're open to receive them. They become a source of inner strength. They become a source of self-discovery, and you find more about what you are rather than who you are. When you stop asking the question, who am I, you get out of ego as a trained psychologist, right? You get out of ego and you move into another realm. Whether that's a spiritual realm, whether that is Antichrist realm, it's all an infinite possibility of possible ways that we can experience a life in love.
Did anybody meet their deceased loved ones when they passed on? Okay.
No, but I did. I've seen my father and mother. My father appeared to me one night. I had come home and I felt this presence behind me, and it was almost like you could put your hand through when you sense the spirit there. It's like they're there, but they're in like a fog, And my mother, who I was not too happy with for many years, finally is now starting to appear in my dreams, which is, by the way, how many, many of us get to visit with spirits. People that feel that they don't have any of these gifts that they can see while they're awake. When you're dreaming, if you're dreaming of somebody that has passed away, that's real. They're coming to you with a message in your dreams. So your dreams are very important.
I was 17, so I didn't have anyone at that time who passed. But some awareness that I had that was amazing. I was 17, so I have so much trouble with my mother and my father and how they behave, and they were not good enough and all of that. And I remember that I saw my mother when she was really young and how much she suffered. And I saw all the situations in life that she tried to do the best she could, but, she did whatever she was copying from her mother. So I saw my grandmother, she was dead, and I saw how much she struggled. And I saw all this chain of generational human beings suffering so much. And I felt, oh my God, my mother and my father, how I dare to judge them if they really did the best they could, and they did better than their parents, and my grandmother did better than the mother, and generations trying to do it better. We try to do it better, or no? We come from a dysfunctional society, so that distortion is going to happen. But like here, my friend, what was your name again? Jack. Like Jack said, forgiveness. Because like Jesus said, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know. So, well, that give me a sense of, it's not forgiveness, because when you see that, it's like feeling compassion. I would say compassion that still in me that, and I cannot blame anyone, in this point. You have to see the story.
When I was dead, I didn't see relatives. I was 4. I didn't know or had known any relatives or even pets that had passed. But since that time, I have received regular visitations from relatives. Sometimes I don't recognize them. One example is my Uncle Rudy showed up, but he passed away maybe when he was 85. And he showed up looking 19 years old. So when I said, "Who are you?" He said, "Rudy." I go, "Rudy, do I know you?" He said, "I'm your Uncle Rudy." I said, "Oh, you look so young." And he was really happy to have someone notice him, to have someone see him, to have someone acknowledge him, because when they are close to us, they feel so ignored sometimes because they're standing right next to us. And when we have a thought about them, it's because they're there. When my father was in the hospital and I knew he was passing, his brother, Trini, showed up. And the way I knew that my dad was passing is because his brother was going to be there to greet him. And so stories that my dad had told me about his brother growing up were in my mind as his vibration was around us, because my father was preparing to be greeted.
Well, when I was wherever I went, I didn't see anyone, but years afterward, my father and I had a special relationship. Unfortunately, my father was a manic depressive when they didn't have medication for it. Mm. So when he was in his manic state, he was not a very nice person. But when he wasn't, he was the kindest, sweetest, dearest, and the best teacher I ever had. And he shows up whenever I need comforting. My father will show up on the side. I see him going by, and I say, "Oh, Dad, I'm glad you're here." And then I tell him what's going on. And it's as if I get a message from him. I don't really hear, but I hear, and he tells me, don't worry about this, or this is true and that's not true. And I feel better. My grandmother, whom I'm named after, was a very strong lady. She came here in 1904 from Italy and lost her husband soon after and managed to maintain everything very well. She was 84 when she passed, and I always see her. She was a little bit chubby, and she wore an apron all the time, and she pulled her hair back in a bun. And I see her in the corner of the room and with her hands under her apron like she used to do. And she's saying, Medina, to me, because I've done something she didn't like. And she comes when I've been naughty. And if my husband will ask me something, I'll snap at him. And I'll see my grandmother in the corner of the room. I'll say, oh, I'm sorry, honey. Because my grandmother's saying, don't do that. I found later on in life that the relation with my mother was a push me, pull you. And I don't see her except one time when I had an out-of-body experience. She's in Florida, or was. She's passed now. And I was here. And I went back to my house in Florida where my mom was. My dad had already passed. And I saw my mom in a different bedroom than she usually slept in. I'm the oldest of 8, so we had 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms at our house. And my mother was sleeping in a room where she never would have slept before. And in the corner of the room was a box with a cat in it. My mother doesn't like cats, or didn't. And so that was very unusual. And then I saw my sister, who's 24 years younger than I had a 2-year-old daughter. My sister was born. She was in the other bedroom with a bunch of girls. So next morning I called my mom and I said, I'm going to ask you some really crazy questions. I just need an answer. Did you sleep in Richard's room, my brother's room, last night? And she said, yeah. And I said, did Cindy have friends over? She said, Cindy had a sleepover. They took my bedroom over. And I slept in Richard's room. And I said, Mom, was there a cat in the box? And she said, yes. A cat had been hit by a car in the front of the house. And she went out and got it. It wasn't bleeding or anything, but she just took it in because it was stunned. And she had it sleeping in her bedroom. And that cat became a family cat. Well, how would I know all that? I'm here in California. My mother's in Florida. But I saw that. And that, as Lucy says, every now and then you realize that there's something else that you can do that you didn't know you could do before. And when Jack is talking about, I call it awareness, but I realize, Jack, that it's really love. That the feeling, and that's all there really is. And when people get angry at me, it'll hurt my feelings, and I have to say, okay, God, what lesson am I supposed to learn from this? Because right now I'm really hurting. I love that person, and they were mean to me, and why? And then, that forgiveness is there. You say, okay, it's not my part to judge these people. It's not, and they're not coming at me. It's nothing really personal. It's more them feeling the pain and them using me as an instrument to get rid of that pain. And so you forgive them on that level. I'm not saying that I'm anybody wonderful that I should forgive anyone, but that's the feeling that you have, or that I have. And as each one person talks here, you realize that we have so much in common, and we're so different, but that I'm not so different than everybody else. And when I tell you it's my first time telling anybody about this experience, I also have hidden most of the years that I can do things because people don't like that. They become afraid of you. And when I saw 9/11 and told the teachers at school that I saw it, some of them never talked to me again. They were afraid of me. They thought I knew things about them. And sometimes I did, but
Oh, well.
but that's, and that's the other thing, that when you are like who we are, sometimes there's pain because people are fearful of you, and you don't mean them to be, and you don't mean any harm for them. It's just that who we are is different. And people are frightened of differences, and they're afraid of change, and they're also, the unknown. We are unknown to them. And I feel unknown to myself sometimes. You know, like as Lucy says, you're always finding out things you didn't know about yourself. And when you look in the mirror, Jack, you're right. You say, what am I? You know, what is this about? And I don't have to ask that question anymore. I just kind of let it go. And as far as being afraid of death, never.
Well, that is the next question,
Oh,
actually.
you want me to answer it?
But this is going to be our last and final question for today. So what do you think or feel about death?
I have no fear of it at all. I haven't had for years, and I faced it several times. I just, I kind of can't wait, you know? I want to be back there where all that wonderful stuff is. And, but I also know that I'm going to live a very long time. My mother lived to be 101. And I told you I was 89, and most doctors don't even believe that. But I don't feel old. And I think old is a concept that you have to adopt. I haven't adopted it. And I just feel as if I'm going to be here for a very long time, and that I have a lot of work to do. And that's my responsibility to get that work done, to find the purpose that I'm here for. And I'm always looking for that. And as I said, I feel as if I owe all of you something for letting me have a second chance. So if I tell you that I just feel like I have streams of love coming out of me. And that's the way I want to be in my life. And I have good friends here that I dearly love. And even when I look at her, I can feel the love between us. And as far as after death, I have a great granddaughter. She's only a year old. And they named her after me, Virginia Rose. And when I see that baby, it's as if there's something going on between us. And she's so advanced for her age, it's really ridiculous. But she'll come over and put her hand on my leg and just look at me. And we have like a staring contest. She's just a little bit over a year old, but she's very knowledgeable already. I know that. She's come in with a lot of knowledge. Anyway, I have no fear of death. None, none, none.
I feel that this is being alive is a very short moment in time, that when we pass on to the next realm, that we are born into eternal life.
I think we are dead here. And the other side is where the life is. And I also had somebody talk about dreams here. I had a dream. And in my dream, someone shoot me and I die. And I was feeling more alive than ever. And I was walking around and I was seeing everybody. I said, what happened to these people? Seems like everyone is dead, you know. I think that it's just a transition to another reality. It's nothing to be afraid about. Every day we go to sleep and we wake up. Every day we go to sleep and we wake up. And many times we're going to forget. We're going to fall asleep again. And we're going to forget. But we're going to wake up. And we're going to remember. I think this process is like a remembering. Because we already know. The knowledge is there. It's consciousness. And consciousness is available for everyone. So the knowledge is there. So we just have to remember. And in the moment that we're ready to go, after this experience, every new year, I was, one less year. Bing. I was really happy to go back. And I'm not going to say I can wait because the whole point is to live in the moment, right? Mm-hmm. So eternity is here and now. So here I am in my eternity. So thank you.
Am I afraid of death? I'm not looking forward to it. I'll tell you the truth. The truth is, what if I'm wrong? What if all these years that I've been studying this spiritual world and there isn't anymore? You got to ask yourself that question. But I think you have two choices in life, as you do with most things. You can either believe it or not believe it. Believing it certainly is much more fun and much more exciting. So I choose to believe it, and I am obviously a questioner. I believe that while we're here, we get choices in terms of how we're going to live our lives and different paths that we can take. When I had stage 4 cancer about 15 years ago, I said, that's it. I'm mad. I'm not going anywhere. I want to squeeze as much out of this life as I can. And I put in for 100 years. And if I don't get 100 years out of it, I'm going to be really pissed. I've had friends who have passed away that said they were going to pass away young. They passed away young. They went too fast. So be careful what you say to the universe in terms of what it's all. I believe 90% of life is attitude anyway. What you say, it echoes into the universe. Your words are very important that you say to yourself and to everybody else. So, you know what? If you want a few more years, ask the universe for it. Maybe you had a contract to come here when you were young and pass away at a young age. And that's one of the things that I really study a lot is why do people die these horrible deaths? Why do people die at a young age? Well, that's their contract. They had that negotiated before they came here. But if you want, I think there are exit points that we have in life, different exit points. I've cheated by exit points 1,000,000 times over. And we're going to be gone into the spiritual world a long time. So if you want a little bit more time here, ask the universe for it. There's nothing wrong with that. You might get a few years out of the deal.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I have no fear of death. And I haven't had that fear of death, or that, I've had that for 75 years. And all these last 75 years, I've kind of been preparing myself for the other side. But I've come to believe that I'm a soul traveling through space, and I've had previous lives. So, and I don't get to say how long I'm going to be on the planet. I'm here for a purpose. I've been exploring that purpose. And when I'm on the other side, that purpose will be served. So I welcome it.
It's 5 after 11, but we can stay on for a little bit here, and we're going to allow you all to ask some questions of the panel. And so if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand, and our dear friend Gary is going to make his way to you. Yes, he's picked this first person. And you can address your question to either the entire panel, or if there's one individual in particular that you have your question for, you could direct it to that person.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. But I want to know the second one, and I don't know your name.
Lucy.
What did the angels look like?
Wonderful question. The reason they look like angels is because their heart chakras are wide open. And when you see them in silhouette form, it is the wide open heart chakra that is the wings. That's what they look like to me. They were varied sizes, forms, colors, and their eyes shine with light. They are made out of pure light and pure love, but they each were also individuals, and it's like looking at a rainbow or crystal in the variety of colors. A prism, an exquisite individuality, all unique as all of us are.
Thank you for presenting. Very, very touching. My question is, why would we as energy beings with such beautiful gifts want to come into this physical body?
Is not that the question, right? But it sounds so much more fun over there, doesn't it, right?
May I? This is a fabulous school. It is a learning experience so intense that souls have lined up to be here during this time. There are cosmic clocks that we have forgotten about. Just like there's daytime, nighttime, the seasons, there are major clocks that have to do with the progression of the earth, the progression of the equinoxes. It takes 26,700 years for each progression. You can, there's a movie they've made about it and books about it. But the Aztec calendar are 2 of those years. The ancients had this knowledge, and we are living in an age and time where the progression of those equinoxes is going into a very ascended stage where the opportunity for ascension is here for everyone. This is a very important time in the earth. And for us that came here, it is a very rich and intense learning experience where we fall into the concept of time and we pretend that we are not as spiritually powerful as we are because we want to have these experiences that are one of the most intense experiences in the entire universe. And yes, we agree to learn through sometimes pain. It is all part of our soul's journey. And there is definitely a difference between your spirit and your soul. Your spirit is linked, your direct link to all that is, to existence, to God, the universe, whatever that is to you, to our Creator. Your soul is your individual beingness. It is the memories that you take with you when you pass. And your uniqueness is celebrated throughout the universe because that is how the universe expands in consciousness, is through you having your unique experiences.
Why do we choose to be a human? Because this is the way that we learn our lessons, and to learn our lessons and have these experiences help us grow on a soul level. And I always equate it to kindergarten versus graduate school. Some of us are still in kindergarten, and we will choose many lifetimes to come back again and again to learn lessons, so that on the other side, when we do pass, we evolve, and we evolve to go to the light. What is the light? The light is the goal of all of us, to become graduates and go to graduate school and get a PhD. That brings us closer to the light, which we probably, some of us would call God or whatever it might be. But that's the reason we come here. And you choose that for the lessons to grow on a soul level. Now, when you pass, you don't have to come right back. You can rest thousands of years. So it's a matter of choice, and that's the reason that your soul will grow, and you go from kindergarten to graduate school.
Thank you. Fascinating stuff. Thanks for sharing. In one of the exchanges, something was mentioned, and I'd like you to clarify a little bit, something called the Akkadic record. Could you spell that for me and briefly explain what that is? Thank you.
Go ahead, Amy.
Akashic records. Yeah, I just say it right on. Right? Yeah. Akashic is A-K-A-S-H-I-C. Akashic. Akashic records. They come from Akasha, that is the etheric realm, and it's like the library with everything is there, all the knowledge of the universe, all this history of humanity, absolutely everything, all the story of your soul. Like like you say, the soul go around in different reincarnations, if you believe in that, until they reach higher levels of evolution of consciousness. So when we are closer to that light, I will say the people are more evolved is the people who love more. Love and evolution go hand by hand. So if you talk about love and then you go home and you kick the cat of your neighbor, it's kind of, you're not in integrity, right? So, and we come here to learn how to love. That's why we came here, how to love and to be happy. That's our learning experience here, how to love and be happy. And how we learn through contrast. We cannot see the stars so beautiful if the sky wasn't dark, right? So we do need the darkness to evolve.
I want to just elaborate on that point, because most of my life I used to wonder why do people have to have such pain? To learn, why do we have to go through pain? Well, without pain, there is no health, good health. Without contrast, as you would say, if we were always eternally happy, it could get to be a little boring, obviously. So we learn through the black and white, the contrast. That's how we learn. And as far as the Akashic records go, when you pass, when you go through the light and you meet your loved ones and so forth, you are shown those records. You are shown those records, and your whole life passes before you, so that you and your guides on the other side will determine what you have learned while you're here, what lessons you might want to learn in the next life if you choose one, etc. But it's a biography of your whole life, every moment, every second, and of everything that's ever existed. And you see that when you pass over.
And I'll add to the Akashic Records is that some have said that it is the spiritual book of everything that has ever been and everything that will ever be. And so while we have free choice, right, here as humans on this earth, all of the possibilities of what will ever be are warehoused in the Akashic Records.
We always wanted to have some proof of this, right? Because we can talk about God, but what is the proof? And we can talk about energy. When I go to Egypt taking groups, it's a temple there called Luxor.
Luxor?
Yeah. And Luxor is absolutely amazing. And Lux, L-U-S, what is? Light. So it's the temple of light. So I always say that the light was coming from the etheric realms, celestial realms, through the temple, to the temple, through the columns. I always say that. And I was seeing the light coming. But this time I went, and actually I was seeing the light coming down the temple. And I was like, okay, this is amazing. I didn't smoke anything here, I was in the light. That was amazing. So I told everyone, I said, I have been really, my eyes, the eye of Horus is activated. I'm seeing the light. We're seeing it too. I said, oh my God. So I took a picture. We checked. That was not lights from the temple. The light was coming from somewhere in the heavens, in the sky. So he said, this cannot be possible. So I took a picture, and they show up in the picture, the light coming down to the temple. So, but from where? So I look at the sky, and that was completely dark. That was nighttime. And I took a picture, and what came up was amazing. I just showed it to her. That was amazing. There was a proof. I have proof. Now I have proof. This came to the dark, taking a picture to the light, not to the light. I didn't know that was that there, but everything was dark. I took a picture to everything that was dark. There was few stars, nothing. and the light was there.
Light. I don't know if any of you have heard the word orbs,
Mhm.
but when my mother passed and we were, this is a story, they had the wrong woman that they showed us as my mother.
Oh no.
We went in, my sister and I said goodbye, and we said, this does not look like Mom. And it turns out it was the woman that was going to Potter's Field, and I swore my mother must have done a switcheroo, because we ended up being able to send this woman off. But when we got back to the house, I took pictures of the family, and it was later on that I saw all these orbs, and orbs are spirits. They're spirits that have passed over, and I'm sure you've seen them. You might have seen them in photographs, etc., but they're real. It's another form of light.
Yes, Emmy has many orbs from Egypt. Yes, having
In
been there.
Egypt,
Yes.
in the pictures, the lights, because the camera seems like capture things that the eye cannot see.
Yeah.
So it's amazing the things that we can capture.
This is just my second meeting here.
Welcome.
Yes, and I'm so blown away by the energy that I feel from this group, and I want to thank you all for sharing your stories, because having like low level talent in this area, I understand how people can look at you suspiciously, and how we, cuckoo and come up with all kinds of reasons how this can't be true, and there's a logical explanation. And so I get that, and even having more language, which I lack, for describing the experiences is also very helpful. So thank you for that. Thank you for making this happen. My question is, for a person like myself who came from Chicago, where I had my spiritual group, where do I start, or where might I go to continue my journey and my growing of my spiritual self?
I'd like to suggest something to you. Set a very clear intention for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, just cast it off into the universe and let go of it. And then follow your heart, and you will be guided to exactly where you need it to be.
That's why I'm here, actually.
Yes. And
Yeah, there's a saying that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. So all of you that feel that you're not that knowledgeable, that's okay. Maybe the next lifetime, maybe the next life. We're all psychic, by the way. Some of us have more gifts than others, but you have gifts that we don't have. So, just be grateful for that.
One more thing is to trust. Just trust in the divine guidance.
When you return to this realm, that you were full of love and you want to serve and help. So you have this attitude. How do you respond to those who want to exploit you?
You have a vibration that is so honed, so positive, so loving, that negativity just cannot reach you. You are invisible to somebody like that. It is a light from God that is so powerful, so strong, so magnificent, that any shadow cannot exist in it. Negativity is just a shadow. It doesn't build, it doesn't create, it doesn't cause. It runs away the moment that the light hits it. So the confidence you have is like a billion suns of light, and there is just no comparison. when I had some experiences and I knew the person I was with would exploit them, I just didn't share it with him because that was a different path that he was choosing for himself. And my intuition told me this person would exploit that, would take advantage of it, would try to use it. So because of the intuition, they knew me so well, but that part of me was just never available to them. If you could only see the magnificence of the lights within each and every individual and the potential for spiritual enlightenment in every single being on this planet, you would be amazed. So there is no question in my mind whatsoever that the light, the goodness triumphs every single time. There's a wonderful quote by Mahatma Gandhi that speaks of that in the people that think that they're running this world. They have no idea the powers that are in the positive aspect of life experiences. Thank you.
Just want to address that issue because I've been there. Nobody can exploit you unless you allow them to. That's right. And it's funny, I have a saying over my desk, and my daughter read it this morning, and it says, if somebody presses your buttons, it's your issue, not theirs. So take a look at yourself, not allow it to happen. And again, you have a choice. And again, the answer is just give them back love, and it will kind of disappear.
I think with time, we learn to really separate ourselves from the issues that some other person can have. When you are in this path of light, many challenges is gonna come, and you have to be aware of that and knowing that they're gonna come. And sometimes, you see, sometimes I'm bored and I play stupid games in the cell phone. Do you do that? Someone does it? If the game is too easy, it's kind of boring, right? So it's very interesting when it's not so easy. And I think that difficulties or having a person that is kind of difficult help us so much. It's a blessing, actually, in our lives. Yeah, so, welcome and say thank you, thank you, thank you.
I just want to say thank you so much for coming today. I love hearing all your stories, and I find it very knowledgeable, and so I just thank you for your time. One question that I have, it was kind of brought up a couple of times, the concept of time. And I've heard people talk about, like astrophysicists talk about how the past, the present, and the future is kind of all happening at once. And I don't know if any of you have ever seen Interstellar, but we can kind of see that happening in the movie. And you all mentioned this life passes so quickly. So I guess my question is, in terms of the passage of time, is the past, present, and future happening just in this lifetime, or in the other universe as well? Or do any of you have any, I'm just curious about what you think about that.
There is no time on the other side. No time. There is only time here. There is no age on the other side. So the passage of time is only relevant to while we're in the human body.
That's true on the other side. Here, my experience has been, when my daughter was born, when I came up, she, at the foot of my bed was an angel, and she said to me, "You're going to name your baby Dolores." Well, that means sadness. And I wasn't naming my daughter Sadness. Mm-hmm. So I thought about it. And as I watched my daughter grow, all of a sudden I realized that I knew that my daughter's life was not going to be easy, and that there was going to be a sadness in it, and that at some point there would be a break between us, which was very sad for me. And I saw it all at one time. Well, it's all come to pass. My daughter hasn't spoken to me for 3 years. And it's very painful. It took me 6 babies to have 2. I lost all the other ones. So, and you were talking about the contracts they make. Well, I had a little boy come in 20 hours and go, and another little boy come 14 months and go. So you wonder, what that was about. But I always knew when I picked him up that I wasn't going to have him very long. So I already knew. And sometimes it's all happening at one time. You're here in the now, and you see where they came from and where they're going to be. And there's a sadness, but there's nothing I can do about it. I can just live through it. And it's a very sadness for me right now not to have my daughter in my life. But I know that she has to go through this. She went through the war, and she had her friend's body parts splashed all over her because he blew up in front of her in Afghanistan. And that has caused her to be a different person. I saw that the sadness she would go through. I didn't know it was going to be war. So to answer that part. The other thing I saw, I live with my high school sweetheart. He's my husband. And we didn't see each other for 37 years. And at a class reunion, I always knew he would be in my life. But I didn't know how. I was married to someone else, single for 11 years, went to a class reunion, and there he was, 37 years later. We've been married 33 years. But when he comes out of the bedroom sometimes, I see that I'm not going to have him very long. We're both 89, but he's aged much more than I have. So I know my life is going to be without him at some point. So I knew he would always be in my life when I was younger, but I didn't know how that was going to happen. So I saw the past where we were together. I saw the present where I was without him, but I knew in the future he would be there, and he was.
So in my experience, when I had this amazing ascension, I saw that everything was happening in the moment. That's why the Akashic Records has all the information from the past and the future. That's why we can be psychics. We can see it there. But in this reality, time is real, So we're kind of into these two realities. And I guess that the mastery is to really understand the eternity in this reality. So, yeah, time is an illusion. And at the same time, it's real. There's a paradox. And it's great to live with the paradox, not try to resolve it.
There are so many things happening now with the alien reality, the fact that there are other planets that there might be life on. The more reading that I do and studying of this, the more fascinating it becomes and the more deeper it becomes. So there's so much to learn about the other side. So much. It's incomprehensible. It just goes on and on about what happens when we pass.
Okay. Do you have one last thing, Jack, or?
This, and that is, we're living in a time in my lifetime where the rules of science have brought us a lot of discoveries and a lot of insights. And so we tend to build our realities around a frame of reference that requires empirical verification. But that's not the only way to look at experience. Many different ways, and infinite different ways to look at realities. So be open in your mind to different opportunities and alternatives. And so if you seek a scientific explanation for something and you're not getting it, it's because it's not there, okay? Let it be.
And with that famous quote from the Beatles, let's thank our panel for a wonderful discussion today.